Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Here it is, winter, and we're facing what we call the winter blues. Why is it when we see those gray skies and feel the pinch of that cold, wet, rainy, or even snowy weather, we think to ourselves, can't wait for this to get over with? I mean, what value is there outside of snow skiing and tobogganing? Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is a wonderful guest that we've had who's talked about the seasons here on our program before to find out what the benefits are of each and every one of those seasons. And today we're going to be talking about winter. I don't mind looking outside, for instance, a nice frosty window as I see the snow-covered trees and the snow-covered grass as I'm enjoying the nice warm feeling of a nice fire as I'm sitting there with my coffee and reading the paper. But we're going to find out more about what winter truly presents to us. I'd like to welcome our guest today from Friendly Haven Farm in Southwest Washington. Our guest today, Jacqueline Freeman. And Jacqueline, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Why, thank you. And you are so right about the fires. I just went and made one this morning. We heat with wood, and they do what they say about wood is true. It heats you twice, chopping it once. Actually, 3 times, loading it and carrying it down into the house, and then building your fire in the morning.
You actually want to cool off after chopping a few pieces, then carrying it to the house. But what's also neat about the fire, too, is my mom was one of these who had, according to herself, what they call the seasonal depressional disorder, whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to her house one time, and she had this big, bright-looking light just sitting right next to her, and what's that all about? She says, well, this gives me all the UV or whatever I need, so it pulls me out of seasonal depression, and I have to sit in front of it for 30 minutes while she's watching her soap opera. And I thought to myself, I could think of a gentler way, like sitting by a fireplace, to be able to do the very same thing. Now, is that possible?
It sure makes me happy. I have heard about that people who get seasonal affective disorder are really helped by having that bright, full-spectrum light to make them think like summertime, that they react to it. I'm not an expert on that, but, my way really is I can sit in front of that fire, and, boy, I'm just happy. It's nice because the gardens are, we're pretty much wrapped up for the winter. And there's not nearly as much to do. There's not nearly as much to do outdoors, although we spend a lot of our winters doing infrastructure. And that's, getting ready. We're going to move something over here. We're going to build a stone wall there. We're going to finally get that big pile of leftover wood over here. And, there's a lot of the big, bulky moving around things.
Now, let's talk about the significance of the season of winter, especially if you look on it on an international scope. It actually takes on a particular romance all by itself.
Oh, it's the quiet time of year. It's the time that we get to think. In the summer, once the gardens start, spring, summer, fall harvest season, spring planting, summer taking care of the garden, and fall harvest, there's so much to do. We work right till in the Northwest, we have much longer days than normal. I will still be out in the garden at 10 o'clock at night. And, yes, it is pretty dark then, but still light enough that I can be doing something. As we get towards fall, the days get shorter, but I'm still out there harvesting, and then I'm in our food prep place, and I'm getting things ready after dark to process or do whatever, make cider or put in the bins for cold winter storage. The days are still long. In the wintertime, it's kind of nice. We get to sleep in late because you can't get up you can't get up at 6 and let the chickens out. It's just not light out yet. And everybody goes to bed early. So we are fully rested in the wintertime. That's one of the things I really enjoy about it. I don't think that's, in the grand idea of a whole year, you can't really save up your sleep from winter and pitch it in the summertime when you could use it. But it does help for us to have that time to just kick back a little bit and take some time off. We're also a teaching farm. We have people come here to learn all kinds of things about bees and chickens and gardens and compost and cows and whatever it is, nutrient density in foods, all of those classes. But in the wintertime, we did something different this year. We decided to take December and January off. We've never done that before. And that has been so pleasant. We just, at night after dinner, I can sit down with a big pile of seed catalogs and start planning the garden. Some other things we do, you'll laugh at this, but we review our mistakes.
Certainly have plenty of time to do that, too.
Oh, we do, and we think of what in the world could we do next year to make that different. One of the mistakes I made, for example, was we have different rotating chicken pastures where we move. We have about 30 chickens, sometimes more, not usually less, that we move through the different pastures. They're usually in each one for about a month so that they have access to being, and they're big-sized ones, too. They're about 1/4 of an acre each. And that always gives them lots of bugs and slugs to eat, and that keeps them healthy and makes their eggs really wonderful with lots of nourishment in them for us as well. Well, this year I fenced off my big garden so the chickens can't get in there. But then I decided in the fall, once we harvested everything, let's open up the garden and let's let the chickens turn everything over for the winter. Now, that's a really good idea because anything that saves us labor is always fun. And the chickens were happy to do that. The mistake I made, though, was I didn't look ahead to what was still going to be blooming in the winter. And in our Northwest winters, we have a garden that'll go all winter. We can still grow kale and potatoes, and the carrots are underground. The cabbage will still grow. Quite a few things, beets, chard, even some of our onions will keep on going. And I can always go out and pick a salad. I keep some lettuces going in our little greenhouse. So I've always got plenty of stuff for at least some of the roots and the greens I can keep going. I didn't look at it in my big garden. I didn't realize I was going to let the chickens in there. So I had little spot gardens of here's the chard, and we're going to have to fence that off, and here's the kale, let's fence that off. And next year I'm going to be more, I'm going to plan it better so that when we open up the garden for the chickens in the fall, all my winter stuff will be all in one place. So that will help.
Now, you were talking about the chickens turning things over. What does that mean exactly?
Oh, my gosh. A chicken, there's nothing they like more than going out and poking through everything that's out there, including my compost pile, which I don't really want turned over in the wintertime.
Okay.
They're going in there looking for, are there any worms down here or any little larvae of something that we could poke up and eat? And they're good. They go right through the wintertime unless there's snow on the ground, which is pretty rare where we live. Mm-hmm. They're out every day poking around looking for bugs and finding them.
Now, what about some other things that people should consider about winter? Because even as dead as winter can appear, there's actually a lot of activity going on.
Well, there sure is. Well, that planting the garden is probably the biggest thing for most people who are not farm-sized like us. And that's a time when you really get your reading done, too. There's always more to read, more to learn, more to know. Mm-hmm. And there's so many good books that are written, and we just devour them in the wintertime, and we think of different kinds of things we can do. We take care of our orchards right about now. We start doing the pruning, and that's a big task. Inevitably, every year I wait till too late, and then I can't get through my whole orchard doing it. And this year we started early. So we're starting a few weeks before we usually do and getting everything pruned back. Now, you came out and visited last year, and you even helped us with that. Mm-hmm. So that's a big task that happens in winter, and it has to happen when the trees are sleeping before the sap gets running. We have one other thing we're doing this year that's brand new. In the Northwest, I'm originally from New England, as is my husband, and we have maple syrup out there. Maple syrup's something you tap the tree and get the sap off of all year. We're doing it this year with some of the trees around here. Now, not the big sugar maples. We don't really have those like New England does, but we're trying a few other kinds of trees that we do have growing on our farm, like birch, and we do have some big leaf maples. And we're going to see how that goes. I understand it's not quite as sweet and rich a flavor, but oh, what the heck. We're going to give it a try because we've got those trees growing here. Mm-hmm.
Now, what about, do you participate in doing our canning usually happens during the harvest season, right? That's fall?
Yes, we have the things that we have to get. We don't do as much canning. one of the things with canning that I'm not so keen on is you have to heat it to such high heats that we lose a lot of nutrients. And we're big on that on this farm, about keeping the nutrient density high.
Uh-huh.
So we tend to do more of the low heat dehydration and also lacto fermenting, so like making sauerkraut. Just made some a few weeks ago, big jars of it with all kinds of different root vegetables in it. Everyone knows you can make sauerkraut with cabbage, but we also put in 2 different kinds of beets, red ones and orange ones, and carrots and burdock root and horseradish.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting you bring up sauerkraut there, Jacqueline. We had a guest on our program a couple of weeks ago as the swine flu is this big thing everybody seems to be concerned about. And she says, I'll tell you, one of the best ways, not only for good sickness prevention, but also to not even worry about the swine flu in general, and that is you keep a nice big jar of sauerkraut in your fridge, and every morning take a tablespoon of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she says that will absolutely build your immunity to a level that swine flu is going to look like you just have a runny nose at best. So I was just really amazed. Sauerkraut, really?
That's great to hear. It's so easy to make, and I know it's filled with probiotics, which are wonderful for your digestive system, which is a prime part of your immune system. So that's great, and it's so easy to make, so easy. We try it both 2 different ways. One way we make it is the traditional way with salt, and the other way we make it is by adding whey, which is the runoff that we get from whenever we make cheese with our milk, cheese or yogurt or anything like that. There's always the watery liquid in there. And so we put that on the vegetables and make some up too. Mm-hmm. But there's still, like you said, there's still a lot of food that needs to be used or processed over the winter time. A lot of the things we harvest we can just store. We have a big garage that we use as our food processing area. And, I've just got a big table full of squash and pumpkins. I've got cabbage there, beets, turnip, parsnips, carrots are still in the ground, and carrots are out in bins. Apples, pears, quince, burdock root, horseradish. That's probably the biggest things that we've got stored, and of course potatoes. And when I keep going through them every few days, I go through everything, touch it all again, and look at what's doing well, what's going to last for a few more months, and what should we be eating up right away. Mm-hmm. So one of our favorite things to do is we take some of the root vegetables like parsnips or beets, and we cut them up really thin, and then we douse them with some olive oil and cook them up under the broiler like chips. Mm-hmm. And a sprinkle of salt over that. Oh, my goodness. You can't buy anything that tastes as good as that.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of food, Jacqueline, what are some good foods that people should consider eating more of when the winter time is around to keep themselves warm?
Well, any of those root vegetables are good, and they do last. So if you grow them, they tend to be very prolific and will last quite a long time, months and months. You can grow a cabbage that's ready in the fall, and you can still be eating that in the springtime. So that's where we go. We have a lot of hearty salads in the wintertime, not so much the light, fluffy lettuce leaf salads and with lettuce and tomatoes that you'd have in the summertime, but more of the sturdy ones, Waldorf salads made with our apples and the nuts that we gather and things like that. Of course, you can bake any of these things up, and they're just yummy. Baked potatoes with some cheese thrown in with it, or squash with butters. Oh, just fabulous.
Wonderful. You just didn't think that winter could be so productive, but it can be.
We probably eat every bit as good in the wintertime as we do in the summer, and I think that would surprise some people. You'd think of it. The hardest time, actually, is early spring. Mm-hmm. That's the time when there's less less going on. We're usually at the tail end of what we've kept over winter. And if I'm going to buy food, that would be probably when my food bill goes up a little bit more than normal, because the rest of the year, from late spring all the way around to early spring, we can pretty much do quite a bit. You've heard of the whole locavore movement, and we are right in the heart of that because we harvest so much right from our own land. I'm sure that we're eating, I would be conservative saying 50% of our food, because I'm sure it's probably more like maybe 70% that we grow. We're lucky in that we have our meat animals here as well. So we cover quite a bit of it. And boy, let me tell you, that cuts down on your food bill immensely to have a little of this and a little of that. Even people with urban gardens can grow quite a bit. I have a friend who lives in Portland who raises her own meat on just a normal city lot. And what she does, now she doesn't have cows like we do. We do cows and chickens and turkeys. She doesn't have that. She has bunnies. She raises rabbits. And, raises and butchers the rabbits and provides for her own in-the-city meat. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, definitely. You wouldn't even think about something like that. But rabbits don't really need a whole lot of space, do they?
No, but she said, in Europe, that was what they did in the city, was everyone needed a source of the meats. And this was an animal that takes up a very, very low footprint, a very small footprint. And she can do that right in her backyard. So she keeps her breeding pair of rabbits and then butchers them as the families get large enough.
Now, besides the quiet time and the fact that she can do a lot of industrious things inside of the house, getting projects done that you normally wouldn't do when the weather is good, and you're outside quite a bit, what are other things that people should know about winter that maybe they can wake up to, if you will?
Now, that's a good question. Well, this is the time I get to spend more time writing, taking pictures, and the winter farm is so beautiful. It's so spare, but so beautiful. It's the time when you get to see the bare bones of the place. And that's why when I said earlier we do the infrastructure projects now, this is the time when it's not so lush around here that I can walk around and see the structure of the gardens. I can see what the front yard looks like and where might some more trees go in. How about bushes? This is also the time of year when you plant all of that stuff too. You want to be getting your trees and your bushes and things like that I would say next month, if you live in my area, during the time when we've got plenty of rain and, there's time for you to plant a dormant tree or a bush, and when the weather warms up, it's right in the ground ready to go and the roots will be off racing.
Sounds like so much fun, too. Now, is there a website people can find out more about the seasons and how they can actually enjoy them more than just passing through and going about their daily routine?
Well, on our website, we post what we're doing all the time, and we've got pictures and sometimes even little videos up about it. We just posted one the other day with our cows. We were moving them from one pasture to the other, and a friend was along and took my camera and took a little clip of a video of our mother cow with her baby, and when we brought them up into the field, that young one just took off, kicking her heels up in the air. And I'm just starting to learn how to put videos of the things up on our website so they can follow along on what we're doing and see if any of the things that we're doing pertain to them. Maybe not letting the cows loose, but planting the bushes and making stone walls or things like that, processing the foods.
And what's the website?
The website is friendlyhaven.com.
Friendlyhaven.com. Very good.
I'll spell it out, FRIENDLYHAVEN.com. I live in the little town of Vänersburg, and Vänersburg is in Swedish means a haven for friends. That's what the name of our farm came from.
Oh. Well, Jacqueline Freeman, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. I feel more sunshine even though it's a wintry day.
Oh, good. The warm from the fire.
Very good. Well, thank you again. And go ahead and give your website out again one more time.
Friendlyhaven.com. Feel free to come over and visit. And especially if you live in the Northwest, take a look at what classes we're doing. We do them pretty much year-round, except for our little vacation here. So lots of classes coming up with the bees and the chickens and getting ready for the garden for the new year.
Very good. Well, Jacqueline Freeman, again, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
So, happy winter to all of you folks out there. Be sure to enjoy what you have in front of you because each winter can be different. We also encourage you to visit us at our website, which is beyond50radio.com, and sign up for our free weekly e-newsletter. Also, be sure to visit us at our blog where we archive our shows as well as have great resource information for you to use as well as for you to pass on to others as well. We thank you for tuning in. We welcome your questions or comments. Just shoot us an email. I'm Daniel Davis. Again, thank you for joining us. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.